What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Where's My Hat podcast. I'm the host today by myself, Branden Eifrid, aka Equip at Equip Music, and I'm joined today by Rolin Mains. He is a professor at PFW University, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's an all-around great guy. He's an awesome professor and mentor to me. I do my applied lessons with him for the semester. It's actually my 6th semester of applied lessons. I had 4 with him. And I gotta say, the guy is amazing. He's here today. I'm so happy that he decided to do this. So without further ado, here we go. What's going on? How are you?
Not much. Hey, so I heard part of the intro. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I figured I'd give you a nice little introduction.
Yeah, I feel a little pressured now.
See, I don't let the guests listen to the intros usually.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you probably shouldn't have let me listen to it either, because
Yeah.
now I don't even know what to say.
Oh, no, you're doing great. That's the funny thing is, like, every time we're in here, if we are just shooting the shit, it's always a really great conversation. But then sometimes when you put a microphone in front of your face, then it's like, oh no, then you're overthinking everything.
Yeah, it's like when the red light goes on when you record. It's like,
Yeah. You
oops,
play it
no,
perfectly.
I can't play it now.
Yeah. Play it perfectly 1,000 times. And then as soon as you press record, it all goes out the window.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's all just a mental thing.
It is. Oh, it's completely mental. Yeah.
I think the more I've practiced a lot doing that, even recording at home by myself, you still get that. You're like, okay, just knowing. But I think the more you do it, you just kind of.
Yeah. Logic has this thing where you can play and you don't have to hit record, but it remembers what you play. And that actually works pretty well. Until you start thinking about the fact that it's listening and then whatever you play is being heard. And you're just back in the same boat.
So it's basically just recording even when it's not recording?
Yeah.
Like for MIDI or audio too?
MIDI.
Okay.
Only MIDI.
Audio, that would start taking up a bunch of space or whatever, wouldn't it? You're just like trying to.
Yeah, I don't know where it goes because it'll record it a long time. And the thing with Logic too is that it you don't have to hit play.
Yeah.
It can just be sitting there.
It's listening.
It is listening.
Like
it's
Google
worse
on your
than
phone.
Alexa, actually. Or Siri or anybody like that.
So for you, if you don't know, like those are all digital audio workstations, the things that when you go into a studio, that's what they're running on the computer to record the audio.
Yeah.
That's
what us keyboard players talk about.
Yeah. We just talk about tech nerd stuff. I really am a nerd. Like I love that kind of stuff. Really.
Guitarists are a little bit more nerdy than keyboard players.
Oh yeah.
Guitarists are talking about alphabets and numbers and the latest, and I got nothing.
Yeah.
Got nothing. It's I can't imagine a worse conversation to be trapped in than a bunch of guitar players talking about their gear. I just can't.
It's like when you start talking music theory and the drummer's sitting there, he's like,
exactly
okay, we're going to go up to F. We're going to modulate down to G sharp. He's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like you're speaking another language.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Alexa, I think that's going to be pretty soon, Chat GPT or the AI, Alexa will just be like talking to another human being pretty soon. It'll be like, very human.
Yeah. I have mine set to where so it does whatever it tells. It's like Alexa, turn on whatever, and then it waits a bit, and then it'll turn off, so I can follow it up.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do also is call her names, and I tell her she's full of shit and stuff. I'm pretty sure there's a point where she's going to say, "Wait a minute,
right?
I'm not going to turn your lights on anymore." You mother.
She'll start talking back.
Can we swear?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like you can literally say anything you want.
Fuckity fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm leaving that in. Well, that's the thing. I usually actually give the guest the podcast so they can check it out, and that way, if you hear yourself, I kind of don't like doing that because I feel like sometimes people want to edit out all the like parts that they perceive as a bad part, but like actually people would want to hear, or like people might resonate with something, even if it's to you, it might be embarrassing or silly. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't
but I'll like, but yeah, I'm not just going to like, I won't do it like that.
Okay.
You'll just be like, oh, wow, I really wish I didn't say that. Too late. It's on the, you know,
yeah,
you'll get like a say in it.
I have these really strong opinions about a bunch of different things, and I have to be careful as, you know.
A professor.
Yeah.
Employed by the school. Yeah, because, I mean, students are going to find out that you're on this podcast, you know, and they're going to definitely I'm so glad you're on this. This is really cool.
Hello, students.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I know I'll get Sam to listen to it, and he'll probably tell his friends.
And yeah,
he's a popular dude.
Well, it depends on what I say, I guess. If I don't say anything in the next whatever.
Yeah, I know. See, I'm
be boring.
I'm messing up as the host by saying any of this. I should just like, you're supposed to.
It's kind of meta.
Yeah,
talking about the thing.
Yeah, yeah. Literally, like anything goes on this podcast. We've talked about. Yeah,
we could.
If you,
we could break up. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's funny. Like me and Kristen have been just doing like we did the last episode. So we're trying to kind of revamp it a little bit.
Well, I liked it.
Yeah.
Till they got a little jiggy with it, but that was turbulent. Yeah. It was a little bit. It was kind of like watching like Maury or, Jerry, what's his name? Jerry Springer, but yeah, or watching a car accident. You kind of are compelled to watch. It is. Like, I just have this morbid curiosity now to see how this pans out. So I was listening to it on the road. I was like driving somewhere. And it just went on and on and on and on and on and on. It ate up a bunch of time.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's what podcasts are for. That was just a little bit of kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And each episode's, they're pretty different from each other, and there's no real structure. There's a couple different, they were doing like the fuck, marry, kill game for a while where you pick 3 people. And
I like that.
Yeah. I've heard other podcasts do it though. It's not exclusive to us. We didn't think of that, but it is kind of fun to do sometimes.
Yeah. I've been thinking about doing podcasts, and they, one of the things you're supposed to do is like tell people up front what this podcast is going to be about. Talk about.
See, I throw that right out the window. So it's classified. You have to put like a genre sort of for your podcast on, or to help people find it. And it's on, Apple and Spotify have that. So you can click like music podcast, but this is it's a comedy podcast technically, which is probably the broadest thing. You can literally talk about anything.
That's good.
So,
except
and I want
funny.
Well, no, it doesn't. I mean, I just want it to be like just a natural conversation, because most of the podcasts I listen to, it's like a comedian and his friend, and they're both like professional comedians, and and they're in the industry and all that, but they just are literally just talking about things. They might hit a few topics that they want to talk about or whatever. They're it's like you're just it just shows they're like real people, not just this godlike thing on stage all the time,
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, I hope it's interesting because, living in New York, you would sit in the subway and listen to people either talk on their phone or talk to each other. And I've found that eavesdropping kind of thing.
Yeah.
People are boring. People talk about the most boring stuff. And so hopefully this will be more interesting than that.
Oh, for sure.
But we're not going to talk about shopping and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that's funny to me when people are like, yeah, the government's listening to you on your phone. It's like the government doesn't fucking care anything you're doing. Like you're not important. You're not John Wick. Like, I don't know. It's funny.
Yes. We're boring basically. But we were talking about It. So I just wanted to.
Oh yeah. So you watched the original It.
I watched the OG and it wasn't as scary. One of the kids from Stranger Things is in there. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
The kid with glasses is
okay.
I don't know. I watched Stranger Things, but I can't remember what his name is. But he's one of the main guys.
Okay, I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen all of it.
It reminded me of Stranger Things. The whole vibe of it is very Stranger Things. Just it's a kind of different, but it's kids fighting paranormal kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that only they know about. It is very similar. I never really thought about that.
But it's not. It's not as scary as I thought. And the clown's got that thing with its mouth. It's like, well, that it should be different than that. And then, there's a bunch of things about it that are kind of goofy. Yeah,
like the end where he's like a giant spider.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry if that's a spoiler for you, but that movie came out like over 20 years ago. So I think,
we're
we're. When did
it come out?
I want to say late 80s, right?
Well, I don't know. That kid, he was young in Stranger Things, so it couldn't have been maybe mid-90s, maybe?
Maybe 90s. That's a good question.
Because the other one...
See, we could look this up, but leave it in the comments. Tell us what year it was.
Yeah, we could look it up.
I'm not doing that.
Chapter 2 is the one that they remade, I think, where the people come back 30 years later, supposedly. So I'm guessing it's a whole different cast.
Yeah, because the whole thing, I think, is like 3 hours long, isn't it?
Well, the 90s one is 3 hours, but the new one is 2 hours.
Oh, the new, I see.
Right? One of them is 3 hours, and the other one's only 2.
I think the original's the long one. And yeah.
And
the kid, and you're right. I thought it's a scary concept, obviously, but the fact that it's a clown doesn't, I'm not like, I don't have the clown phobia thing at all.
Not either.
So it didn't really.
I just think clowns are stupid.
I think the worst part was when they're opening the fortune cookies, where they're like they all have like their worst fear inside the.
Yeah.
That was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's that's kind of an interesting thing. But what's weird is that like the one kid never saw the clown, and he doesn't particularly have a fear of clowns. There's one of them. It's like, but they all see the clown. So, so evidently that doesn't work. I don't know. It just wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And now I want to see the second one because I've heard it's better.
Do you do you believe in ghosts or do you like ghosts? Because
excellent question. No, well, when it's in the middle of the night and I'm in a strange place, yes. But
then you believe in ghosts?
I believe the possibility that they exist. But from a rational standpoint, I've talked to people who believe in ghosts a lot, but I have problems with ghosts in that I don't understand why they lurk around. If ghosts are everywhere, why aren't we just seeing them everywhere? Why don't they just walk around?
I agree. You would think, see, here's what I think though. I don't know if they're real or not. I'm kind of on the fence about it still, but I think if there were, you would think there'd be, because there's way more people that have died than are alive right now. And there's a ton of people alive right now. Right. So imagine the amount of ghosts that would just be out there. But maybe there's only certain ones that stick around, like maybe dying in a traumatic way.
So that's the second thing I think ghosts are stupid, is because people always do what you just did. Which is they sort of explain it away like anybody would know. Yeah.
Well, nobody knows. That's the thing though. That's what it's kind of the beauty of it is like, it's unknown.
You're just making shit up. Then.
It's just like the afterlife or something like that. Then if ghosts are real, then you have to think like, okay, then we have a spirit in our body that when you die is going to go somewhere, Yeah,
with your name, which is problematic also.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the whole consciousness thing, and that's a whole nother thing. But ghosts, the other thing, so it's the explaining away of ghosts without any proof that there's a ghost. If there's a ghost that's living in your house and it's knocking stuff over, then you should be able to bring people in and the ghost should just keep doing it. But the ghost stops. So people only see ghosts when they're alone.
Maybe there's rules, I don't know.
The other rule is, why do ghosts have clothes on?
I mean, that could be like like how they choose to want to. I mean, that's the thing. I could just sit here and make stuff up because who knows?
Yes, because the answer to that question usually is it's that you want them to look a certain way, so you project. Which that's lame.
I don't know. Well, then there's like shadow figures though and stuff where you don't really see, if you can't even tell facial features. There's all these different types of.
Yeah, there's the ball thing, the energy balls.
Oh, those little like people, orbs. Yeah, the orbs. Yeah.
Yeah, like how would you know that that's a ghost? That doesn't look like a ghost.
I've watched a lot of those compilations on YouTube of ghost videos, and a lot of them do have like those orbs thing. They'll kind of appear in front of the camera before something happens. So it is kind of crazy, but also like dust particles are out there, I mean, I could see that but then again, I mean, I don't, like if I'm filming stuff at home, I don't see that. So I don't know. It is kind of weird. Or how hard is it to edit a video too, Like how many of these people just want clout? Especially if a channel says like ghost hunters in the title of the channel. I don't trust it. I trust the videos way more where this person has for like years just uploaded random content. And then all of a sudden they're like, guys, I think this is like really crazy. Or they'll just have, and then you got to be suspicious. Like they're really scared. So they just pull out their camera and start filming. Like, I guess maybe I would do that if I was in that situation, but it is kind of,
again, I mean, it could be anything. It's just So science, right? I mean, there's a certain amount of proof that if you're going to make a special claim, you got to be able to prove the claim. Mm-hmm. It is not up to me. If I make a claim that unicorns exist, it's not up to you to prove what I just said was right.
Yeah.
I got to be the one that says, well, here's why unicorns exist, because you can see it, or flat earth, or any of those things. You've got to be able to prove it. And if you can't prove it, then you just have to accept the fact that it's just your opinion. And in the case of ghosts, you got to accept the fact that you're probably just making shit up, because nobody's been dead, became a ghost, and it comes back and says, well, here's what happens. When you die, you're given a bunch of clothes, choices, and you choose whatever to wear for the rest of eternity. Civil War soldier. Sorry about that, but that's what you got to wear, even though you were not a Civil War soldier, but maybe a year, maybe 6 months tops.
And then all of a sudden that's your whole identity.
Yes. For eternity. Or, some little kid who's always died from diphtheria or dysentery or some kind of thing, and they always have a nice, clean thing. Well, shouldn't it have shit all over it? Shouldn't it, like, blood and all kinds of things, coughing up blood?
Yeah.
And it's always pristine and
it is weird. Yeah. How does that work? Like, do they get to choose their appearance? Are they stuck with something? Are they maybe a ghost stays for a while and then it goes away, And it's always funny to me, those ghost hunter shows, they'll go to a house and be like, we're going to talk to the girl that died here. Like, what if it's like, if let's say the ghosts are real, there could be like 30 other ghosts that died in this old house. And then those are the ones they're communicating with. And then they can't, the ghost can never just like talk to you either and just be like, hey man, this is what's going on. Yeah. They always got to be really. And then that's the other thing. Like, why are people, if ghosts are real, I swear to God, I'm not like scared of ghosts, because like all they do is knock shit over or open a door or shut a door.
That is the other question, is what are they going to do to you?
They appear, they can't. Yeah. If they're in like another plane of reality where you can only see them if they choose to be seen, and they can't really touch physical objects or hurt you. Really. I don't think anyone's ever. Well, it's not like someone might have died from a ghost. But I doubt it.
Well, it's not like we walk around, like ambulances are flying all around the city picking up dead people because ghosts killed them,
Yeah.
Because they don't.
Weird. No.
I mean, it's the unknown, and it's, part of our own imagination, but it's bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was going to recommend. I think it's a pretty scary movie, is The Conjuring. Because but it deals more with evil spirit, like a demon spirit, like this woman. Like, yeah, you should just watch it. I won't spoil it. But the Conjuring's good. I think there's an older one, but I'm talking about the newer one. Well, I don't know what year.
Demons are also sort of an interesting thing, which is a kind of a shift, but it's the same idea, is that nobody can prove demons exist. No one's ever seen one. I mean, people have, and these people seen one.
That's why it's interesting, because it's like these people don't really believe in any of that stuff, and it's based on a true story, I guess. And they always are, right?
Yeah.
But
Amityville was supposed to be based on a true story.
Yeah, but that one wasn't. It wasn't true.
No.
That one was pretty good, wasn't it? Or the remake was.
Yeah,
good.
No, it's good. I
haven't seen it in a long time, but.
Back in those days when they did ghost shows, ghost movies, it was good, but again, it transformed from ghosts into demons, though, right? Mm-hmm. Wasn't that kind of the thing?
It's like these are like entities from hell or a hell realm or something, that are like just toying with you. That would be kind of, I mean, if they're actually able to do things that could actually harm you or possess you to make you do bad things, that's pretty scary. But that's kind of how The Conjuring is.
But you see, the thing is and put a pin in this, because I want to come.
You're good.
I got an idea, but the trouble with demons is that, and this also is movies that have demons in them, is that if you're going to believe in demons, then you're going to have to believe in angels, and you're going to have to believe in God, and you're going to have to believe that God is all powerful. So you can't just have demons. You've got to buy into the whole thing.
But it doesn't have to be angels like the ones with wings flying, like the typical. I mean, maybe there are just good and bad spirits. It doesn't have to be a heaven hell like that's Christian
possible
thing.
But if there's going to be bad ones running around, there's got to be good ones too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and
we're
also
making shit up at this point.
Well, who knows? I mean, that's the thing about it. I don't think people don't like to think that there's things out there that we still don't understand in today's world, we have everything figured out. But think about like just a few hundred years ago, what we had figured out compared to now. I just feel like maybe someday you'll put on some goggles and you'll just be able to see and they'll just be like, yeah, this is a spirit, and they'll know how it works and everything. But it's right now it seems like this magical thing that is impossible. But
yeah. I mean, sure, and there's a lot of things that happen, and there's energies around. I mean, quantum physics is really great because it sort of addresses the fact that there's a lot we can't see that's happening that we would never believe in a million years is able to happen. Mm-hmm. So sure, as a Shakespeare, it's like there are more things on heaven and earth, Horatio, than your philosophies can tell. But the problem is, again,
none of our audience probably knows what the hell you just said, but
I mean, there's a lot of things on
I think what play is that from?
Hamlet, I want to say.
Hamlet.
Yeah, and Hamlet says that to his friend Horatio.
That's a great quote.
By sort of explaining away that I think that he saw his dead dad. Okay. And Horatio's like, what? He did what? And he says, there's a lot that you don't know what you're even talking about.
That's sure. Very true. It takes a wise person to know that.
But not knowing doesn't mean that you can leap then to the next thing. And that's the trouble with God is that, we experience all kinds of things that happen to us, and so we can't explain it, so we just say it's God that does it. But it's one thing to say it's just God that does it without any kind of preconceived attachment to that God, versus it's the God of the Bible. It's the God of Abraham and Jacob and whatever the other guy is, right. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah,
that God probably doesn't exist the way there may be a universal something that we all experience here and there. But to say that it's that God, that's a little presumptuous, because there's a bunch of other gods that people point to that could just be as viable. The cool thing about Islam, and I'm not going to speak about my expertise on Islam. I remember reading a book
that's okay. You
by
can talk about it.
A guy named John Houston. It's called The World's Religions. And he basically goes through the religions and sort of in synopsis forms, kind of distills it down without any of the garbage that goes along with it, the preconceived ideas. But one of the things, the reason why Allah is because it's just God. That's the name. The Christian God as well as the Jewish God is Yahweh. So it's I am. It's a very specific God, whereas Allah is like much more like the Tao in Taoism, which is the Taoist idea that which can be named is not the Tao. So by naming it and calling it Yahweh, calling it Jesus, you have limited it to a certain thing.
Yeah.
But the idea of Allah is that you can't know it. It's bigger than you.
I like that. And I think that is why we do that, because we're human and we want to like personify it, so we can understand it. Because I think it's like, I think you said something, let me see if I can get this right, about like, you can have plans for the future, but the things that happen will be better than you even planned or better than you can imagine, if you put yourself in there, you can't just like do nothing and expect that to happen. You have to put yourself in the right place. But people always want me to have a plan, or like figure it out, like exactly what you're going to do. But if sometimes you imagine that things are going to go this way and you don't know even how, like what could be happening. And I feel like that's how like God could be, you don't even like who are we to say we understand it? Or if there is a God, if we're not all just pieces of God, or, the spiritual, like all the Native Americans and the way they believe in spirits being just in the trees and different living things, it's kind of interesting too. I feel like all of this, I think there's just small truths in each one that, make up part of a bigger thing that we all kind of understand little pieces of.
Well, I think we all sort of walk around, and even atheists walk around with a certain amount of wonder, right? Like, what the hell is this thing?
Mm-hmm.
What is consciousness? What is the earth? What is energy? Why do we see these things on the planet? And why is our planet like the only one so we all walk around with that. The danger is just trying to label it and explain it away. And that
we have to put everything in categories.
Yeah. And then making it a life or death situation, like holding on to the fact that Jesus is Lord and then expecting everybody to believe that. And if they don't, well, we're going to, take away your reproductive rights and all kinds of things because that's what Jesus says. You're just making shit up now because don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, back to the medieval ages where they were using it just to like keep people under control, basically, like, cause you have no other, if you tell them that, then they're going to be like, oh, now I have a reason to be good, to not be like a total delinquent.
Yeah.
So I think it
turns out
religions and wars. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Religion just like has been used for war to get people all rallied up against a common enemy. And it's used for evil almost more than good. It seems like, and it's kind of dying out a little bit, like Christianity, at least Catholicism. I know the numbers each year are like dropping for people that attend church.
Yeah,
that's how I was raised.
That's the beauty of this sort of extreme right sort of playing all their cards, because the younger generations are starting to see that this is like, okay, now you're not even trying to pretend. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're just doing it. You're just being assholes for the sake of control. I mean, the stuff that's going on in Tennessee is just ousting those two Congress, the state senators, I guess they were. Ousting them. And then, the third one was a white woman, but she wasn't ousted because, one vote changed it. Well, and then they said, oh, it's not racist because the two guys are black and they're well-spoken, and they challenged them, and they're actually trying to go against gun reform, and they've got all these people. Yeah, it can't be racism. No, not at all. No, we see it now, right? And so this whole bullshit about Jesus, I know enough people to know that there's a genuine comfort that comes from praying and from all the things, singing, going to church.
Definitely.
And, I'm not going to yuck their yum. I
think there's definitely good sides too. I think if you start believing that you don't control everything in your life, like, I think it's all just more basic than that. It's just, you're basically just saying like, I know there's stuff that's beyond my control. I'm just going to like let the universe handle it.
Yeah.
And that's when, like, cause you can't, if you try, it seems like when you do that, things just start going better, things just start working out for you when you're not constantly trying to micromanage your whole existence.
Yeah. And that's when those, those things that we're talking about, those unimaginable situations happen that you couldn't have possibly come up with yourself. That is something that is unexplainable. I mean, the whole idea of writing down goals and stuff like that is, and imagining what you want. I mean, I guess there's a certain exercise to that, but at the same time, it's like, no.
Just keeping, I get a lot of it's common sense, but it's hard to put into practice, like you should have some kind of thing you're trying to achieve. And obviously if you keep that at kind of the forefront of your mind, or wake up every day and think about it a little bit, like, what am I doing?
Yes.
I'm trying to do this, and you're making steps towards that. Obviously you're going to be more successful than someone who's like totally just,
you got to have the boat moving.
Yeah.
But
you're right about it being like stuff like beyond what you don't really know. You're not going to be able, people want to know, they want everything to be like, they want to have it figured out and not have all this unknown stuff, because that gives people anxiety and makes you crazy.
Yeah.
So you have to let go. I think, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, I'm trying to let go, but I got to pee.
Oh yeah. We can take a break. We do that all the time.
We're taking a break.
Let's take a break.
I got to pee.
Yep. Okay. We're back.
I feel much better.
Great.
Hey, so I was gonna circle back to that thing.
It's such corporate lingo. Put a pin in it. Circle. We're gonna circle back.
Circle back.
I like it.
Do the thing. So in our conversation here about imagination and making shit up. So for all the people out there who believe in ghosts, I know there are some, and there are a few that I've talked to who are, they're pretty avid about it. Understood. But just to let all the folks know, I've had experiences like that. I've had experiences that have been unexplainable, that are ghost-like. Like, for instance, when I first moved into an apartment here in Fort Wayne, in the West Central neighborhood, which supposedly, come to find out, was built on an Indian burial ground. And evidently there was a lot of...
They always are.
Yeah, well, yeah. But supposedly they were all tortured. So there's that too.
Wow.
So evidently the ghosts of Indians there are pissed off, generally.
Sure.
So I moved into this apartment, and so the way the layout was, it was a very small apartment. So there's a loft, which is where the bed was, and then the loft overlooked the living area, the living room space. So very early on, I went to bed, minding my own business, and in the middle of the night, I woke up to the edge of my bed moving, as though someone, and when I woke up, what I thought was someone was down below with some kind of broom handle sticking my mattress, and it was moving it and woke me up.
Whoa.
Sure. Still alive, so.
Well, yeah, but that's,
whoever it was like an asshole ghost that was just keeping me awake. And then not too long after that, I had another experience where I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was for some reason I'll say it's a male, because some reason I felt like it was a male. I don't know. You
have to gender the ghosts. I'm just kidding.
This is just my impression.
Is it a they them ghost, or is it
exactly? I don't know the answer to that, but they were sleeping next to me. They were laying next to me, and I want to say that I had my arm out somehow, and it was like in my, like right next to me, and it was very, very hot, this body, and like it had been burned, and that woke me up. And of course, when I woke up, it was gone.
Yeah.
So, and then there've been times also just throughout my life where I've had sort of similar experiences, but it's always when I am in that twilight of sleep.
Yeah, the in-between kind of state.
Yeah. And then there are people who say, well, Rollie, that when things happen like that, it's because you're closer to the spiritual realm. Because
I was going to say that.
Yeah. Well,
who knows?
I think that's just being made up too.
Yeah. Because who knows?
If that were the case, then wouldn't we all just experience it all the time?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I've never had a real ghost experience, and I kind of like, I welcome it. You know what I mean? Like I would be
just get an apartment down in West Central.
Yeah.
You'll be like,
yeah, I'll hang
perfectly fine.
Yeah. Like, but
they're pissed off.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't mind. Like, I've just never had that, but I still think maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Like and then that in between thing, like you were talking about, of being where you're half asleep still. I know people use that to tap into creativity sometimes,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like there is something to that. Like there's maybe something, because that's the other thing. So, let's say that you may or may not have been given mushrooms by somebody, possibly. And you should definitely take those at some point.
Yeah.
And try that out. Cause I think that's all related.
I talked to actually just my son. We were talking about various
hallucinogenic substances.
Yeah. Because hallucinogenics have become sort of a means of further exploration.
Absolutely.
And if there's anything I truly do believe about sort of the unseen, is that our brains are really good at parsing things in a certain way that we just trust to be accurate, but I don't think it's always accurate. And I think there's things about the world and the universe and the cosmos and all the things that are around us that is almost inaccessible to us, where we just can't get there in a certain form of mind, but hallucinogenics can break some of that down. And that to me is, if I were to do mushrooms, if I were to do LSD, it wouldn't be just for the sake of the trip. It would be because I really want to know what the connection is we have to the universe, to the world, to the energy. I know there's
definitely, yeah, no, I mean, it's not like, oh, well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, at least for me personally. I mean, you have fun and stuff while you're there, but I mean, you do feel, because we are we do it to ourselves. I think it's just the way our brains are wired. You do get trapped in a box. You kind of put yourself in it, and you're like limiting yourself. And that's why, I mean, in Colorado and some places in California, they've legalized mushrooms for like therapy, for especially if you're chronically depressed. And it's really like, there's people that have really snapped out. I mean, you snap out of this thing that it kind of resets your brain for a second,
Yeah. I toured with a guy, probably shouldn't name his name. He was relatively famous, but kind of a big guy in the late 60s as a folk singer, and was on Hair.
Bob Dylan.
No.
Just kidding.
It's Barry McGuire.
Okay.
He did The Eastern World is Exploding. That song.
Okay.
Eve of Destruction. Anyway, so he was talking about the days back in the day, and he had done acid, and that's how he became a Christian. Was that he in one of his trips he took it, and then he while he was on the trip he sort of dissolved into this foam that went into the sky, went into the beyond, and he became much bigger, but not in a powerful way, just an empowered way. Like he realized that there was much more to him and the universe than what he could see. And he then, when he came down from it, he sort of attributed that to God telling him. And there again, he made that leap to say that it was God, so it must be the Jesus God, right?
Sure.
But that's the kind of experience that I'm interested in, is seeing, because the idea of dreams and that twilight thing you're talking about, those are places, dreaming and that twilight place are places where your brain isn't exactly in control of what's happening to you or what you're perceiving or all those things. Again, that doesn't mean there's angels, it doesn't mean there's devils, it doesn't mean there's ghosts. It just means that there's things that happen that you can't explain because your brain's asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's asleep, or maybe it's more awake in a way too, because you don't have the control to go back to your routine and your mind.
Well, it could be part of your brain that's more awake. Sure. That you have squelched during, we're taught that, right? We're taught that when we're kids. Stop dreaming like that. That's impossible.
Exactly.
You can't fly.
You get locked in the box of like society and the rules that they're all arbitrary rules that are kind of placed on you. You've lived in a society. We live in a society, like the Joker says.
That's right.
It is, but it's so true, and everyone knows that. But then, like, what do you have to keep existing? For me, I've heard that before. There actually, Ben Folds has a song called "Not the Same," and it's about this guy at a party who climbs a tree on acid, and when he came down, he was a born again Christian. Like, because people do have spiritual or religious experiences on this stuff, because you do feel that way, like way more connected. It's like, it's nice. Well, I've definitely felt that, like, you're just a part of some bigger thing, like how small you really are. They call it like ego death, where you kind of you as who you are, like where you're all, that's what the kind of the box you put yourself in, it's all related. But. Well,
and that box that we're put in also comes with a caveat. Like, if you get out of that box, you're going to die, right? Or you're going to go insane, then you're going to die. Whatever it is, you're going to die a terrible, gruesome death somehow. And that that's what keeps me in the box. And that's what I was taught, that is the upbringing that I had, was one of fear, that you don't dare take a step that way, or else, shit's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And it's because of you doing that. Don't do that, and things will go well. Well, it turns out it doesn't matter how straight you play it. You're still going to get shit. That there's no such thing.
Yeah.
So there's no God up there with, you went a little bit too far that time, and then a little snap on the wrist. That isn't the way it works. But that box is brutally hard to break out of. It is so concrete and deep. And that's the idea of a psychedelic, is that it sort of short circuits that whole thing.
Yeah.
It puts you in a place where it is kind of the same world as dreams, but it's conscious dreaming.
Yeah. And you do, like, things just don't, you realize, like, what really matters sometimes. It's like the shit that you build up that is such a big deal is, like, really not as big of a deal as and people are scared of dying, because it's another thing where you don't know, nobody can ever know, because you can't talk to someone who died, or no one's really successfully proven that they've talked to a ghost about what the afterlife is like. So, but who knows if it's not the most freeing thing, or if you believe in, like, reincarnation, or, if you go back to maybe you've lived already a bunch of lives, and then when you die, you get to remember all of it. I mean, who knows? There's so many theories. I know that's another thing. You can just you could have a million different theories. That's why it's interesting to study religion and the different ways different cultures kind of deal with death and how that makes you live your life. Because if you, it was a dumb thing on Instagram where this guy was like, I love this glass he's holding the glass and he's like, but I know that one day the wind might blow it off the table or I'll knock it off with my elbow. So knowing that the glass is already broken makes me appreciate the glass more. And I think that's really, there's something to that, the impermanence of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that would bring us to music too. I mean, the idea of recording or of a composer, you know, having the idea that you only get like about 6 songs in you that are any good. The fact is you got an infinite amount. If you're a creative spirit, you're just going to create stuff. The Navajo and the Buddhists, you know, the mandalas and the Navajo art, sand art, they would create these beautiful things and then blow it away. Like, oh, that's so beautiful. I'll just make another one. I'll just make another one and another one and another one and another one. So that, yeah, it is not that the impermanence of things. So that's awesome. I went to a Bible college. I think I told you this a while ago, but we were sitting, there was a few of us sitting in the cafeteria, and one of our quirky professors who none of us really understood because he wasn't mainline, but he came in, he sat down with us, and on the table was a artificial flower. And he pointed to the flower and he said, artificial flowers are Satan's attempt to deny the fall. And then he walked out. I'm looking like, what the hell? But the idea is,
he was on some hallucinogens right then.
Exactly.
Damn.
And the fact that he must have just thought that he was walking down the hall and he's like, okay, we're just going to walk in here.
Lines right now.
That's right. He probably doesn't even remember it. And I may be making it up, but those were his words. And I've told this story, I don't know how many times, but every time it's the artificial flowers are Satan's attempt to deny the fall. My new kind of understanding of it, as I've kind of gotten out of Christianity, of that world, is exactly as you say. We deny the impermanence, and fake flowers, fake plants, only sort of, you know, like if you go into the Opryland Hotel in Nashville, it's just full of plants. But there are people that do nothing but go through and pull out dead flowers, dead leaves. There are no dead leaves anywhere. Uh-huh. No dead flowers. When they start to wilt, chop them off, because we don't want people to think they're going to die.
That's crazy. Yeah,
I know. And it is that. And he was spot on. I don't know about the Satan part.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But the idea is that has messed us up.
Fake permanence, you know, like, oh yeah, these are going to last. Well, I mean, on one hand, I see what you're saying about the garden, not wanting to see the dead thing, but also it just looks nicer too when you trim all the crap out of the. It's kind of fun to garden. I need to get my garden going at home because I enjoy that kind of thing.
I need to get a
tending to
elevated bed. I was going to do an elevated bed, but then taxes hit, and now I'm just gonna probably not do that because that would cost. It's just way too much. Although I'm still thinking about it. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. It doesn't look as nice, sure. And I'm sure that's what the people at Opryland think, is that we want it to look beautiful. Sure. Well, it's the same thing as your friend or, you know, whoever that was that you're talking about with the broken glass. It's like, well, that's unsightly. Yeah, it is. Life is unsightly. Mm-hmm. Life stinks. Life smells. It's got problems all over the place. And to deny that is really the problem.
Yeah.
To think otherwise is the problem.
I think people just, you should accept that people have crazy ways of tricking their brains to accepting things. And then I think that's a way, you know, people make their house really nice or whatever, so they can go back to their nice place and their happy place, I guess, you know? Yeah. I
just think that the idea of, now, it isn't that I live a messy life. I mean, things get messy at my place.
Oh, same.
And
I hate dusting.
I like it when things are nice and clean, but I almost wonder if I do that because I like that feeling of it being nice and clean. And if it's always nice and clean, then I don't really have that feeling anymore. I like I cleaned off my table. You know, it looks nice.
Yeah, that's true. It's like the impermanence thing. When it's clean, you appreciate it because you know it's not going to stay that way forever.
Yeah. My mom.
Seriously, yeah.
We got new furniture when I was growing up. And so she didn't want us to go into the living room ever.
Yeah.
So she didn't want the cat to go in there either. So she would put, ostensibly because the cat was afraid of vacuum, she would put a vacuum at both the entrances to the living room. And then she would put placemats on top of the couch, the seats, because if the cat were to lay on there, they wouldn't get hair on the seats. So the question is, what the hell was that room for anyway? Because we never lived in there.
Yeah.
We could never walk in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people covering, I'm like, if I get a new phone, I put it right. I have them put it in the case for me even and do the screen protector because they're really good at getting all the air bubbles. That's the most frustrating thing.
Or little hairs. Yeah.
You can't, if you have one hair under it, like that's so annoying.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah. But anyway, I do that right away when I get a phone. And then for a while, I'm very like careful with it. And then after a while, I get to a point where it's, you know, I'm comfortable with it again. But when something's brand new, it's almost like a burden to take care of it, you know. You get to I'm so like very, yeah.
I just bought a new MacBook Pro, and you know it's just this amazing
pristine
thing. Yeah. So that was probably 3 months ago, and now it's got shit all over the screen, and there's cat hair all over the thing. There's little pieces of food stuck in the keys. Like, okay. That's
how I almost with musical instruments, especially like my guitars and my like piano and stuff. My keyboard, I need to just like it has like texture keys. It's not like this one where they have the gloss on the top.
Oh yeah.
So stuff like dirt, you know, I've played so many gigs with that Casio that I have, and it's been through hell and back, and it's been like dropped on the ground. It has like a big gouge on one side, but it plays great still, you know. I kind of like that in a way too. Like there's something, or like an old pair of shoes that they're getting a little worn, but they almost fit better. They like form to your feet.
Yeah. I have a shirt that I sleep in that's like that. It's a wonder it's kept together.
Yeah.
Like when I wash it, I have to just hope that it makes another wash.
One day you're just gonna have 30,
literally
30
just
pieces.
You just fall into like little pieces of dust. But it's the most comfortable shirt ever.
Yeah.
And I know that one day it will not be existing anymore.
Why do people like, you know, you never are done. It's like there's always another thing, but people always think that, oh yeah, I'm going to do this stuff, and then one day I'll just be able to relax or whatever. But there's always like a thing. So it seems like you're never done, you know?
Well, that's the thing with goals, right? I mean, goals are all about getting to the end game and then going, I did it.
Yeah. If you have no goals and you're not going to be happy with that either, I think, you know, or the people with a lot of money, there's always another, you know, you always are trying to improve things or do something to get better at it. I guess it's hard.
This would be a whole other conversation that we've had before in this very room, but
yes.
I just think it has a lot to do with capitalism. I think being productive is what you're after and what you're expected to do, which is to create things always, do stuff always, and get a task done and then get another task done. Whereas other cultures all over the place, it's about the process. It's about doing stuff. It isn't the thing you do. It's not the thing that ends up being done. It's about doing it.
The experience.
Yeah.
On the way there. Yeah. I mean, I feel that definitely. Like, I think that's why a lot of people travel, you know, and just to see what else is around. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Or change jobs because you know, the experience of learning.
I do that a lot. I'll stay the longest I've ever been at a job was like 6 years at this pontoon factory. But I like to, like, I've been at Amazon for a little over a year, and I already am like trying to just
done it, been there.
And but I'm getting to a point where I have like a maybe year and a half left, like 3 or 4 semesters left of school. And I just want to like figure out like a more permanent career. Like I don't know, just something that I actually feel good about doing, not just like moving boxes around.
Well, that is the beauty of music, is that there's about a gazillion ways to do it.
And yeah, it's hard for me to narrow. I'm just keeping a really broad.
I would highly suggest you do that.
Because,
okay.
I'm saying yes to everything. Yeah, I'll do your project. I'll do the accompaniment for that. I'll do your trumpet recital.
Because ultimately, and I know you. I mean, we've known each other now almost 2 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, being creative, it sort of goes without saying that you're not going to do the same thing over and over and over. Because, I mean, like I've done music, since I graduated from high school, but I've done it in 1,000 different ways, and each one is sort of tied to other things, but each one was very, very different. And I get bored really quickly, but I can't do anything else.
And you're like right now, you're in quite a few different projects yourself, right? You want to plug any of those?
Well,
talk about it. So just to the listeners.
I mean, I play with the All-Stars here in town, and
which is we're in the Sweetwater Music Center next to the main Sweetwater building, Edit Suite 4. We're doing this podcast over here at school today. And the All-Stars are a group with Chuck Sirac, the guy who started Sweetwater. So that's why they're the All-Stars, but it's a bunch of musicians that he kind of handpicked. So it's kind of an honor to play in that. It's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, the All-Star thing is a bit presumptuous, but it's a fun band, and everybody in it is, has been around a long time.
Does Chuck get pretty drunk when you guys are at practice?
I don't think Chuck drinks ever.
Okay. I was just wondering like what he does for fun. I mean, I'm obviously playing music is fun and recording is fun for him.
I think that is. I'll say this. Can I just go on the record here?
Yeah.
So I was here in the 80s. I wrote jingles for a company here in town, who the owner was besties with Chuck. So I ran into Chuck a lot. I didn't work specifically with Chuck, but I worked in and around, and we knew each other then.
Chuck adjacent, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We abutted.
Uh-huh.
He is today the same guy that he was then. And he's the weirdest guy in that it doesn't matter how much money he's made. There's all kinds of estimates that people can find out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's still the same guy.
I mean, this guy has a helicopter, so if that puts
helicopters.
Multiple, because he owns the whole aviation company.
Yeah, the Sweet
Aviation.
Is
it Sweet Aviation?
Yeah,
something
I think so, like that.
He just puts sweet in front of the thing and buys it.
Yeah,
sweet cars, sweet. Well, Sweetwater doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it. It should be boats,
what he also has done, like Wynette music. Is it Wynette?
Oh yeah, Mynette.
Yeah. Yeah, he did not buy them out, and he as Sweetwater, as a giant music company, would not sell band instruments because he did not want to compete with those guys, because he bought instruments from them when he was a kid.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to. That's actually really nice. He didn't have to do that.
He didn't. And when they retired and they were done with the business and they didn't want to go any further and there was nobody taking the reins, he just bought the company.
Now and he keeps it separate too, which it kind of makes sense too, because there is like stuff like that is kind of its own thing. I feel like band instruments, especially for high school and stuff. Then
he gets a lot of bullshit just because he has a lot of money. But
I have no disrespect for him.
Well,
actually,
he is as down to earth as you could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't make the kind of money he did and do the kind of stuff that he's done without having a certain kind of je ne sais quoi, right? I mean, you just don't.
I agree with you completely. I think people get so much hate for things by people who haven't done anything in their life.
Yes.
And they just want to. Like, I remember in performance class when Hepker was still here. He actually had Chuck come and talk to the group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was cool. But yeah, some of the questions were like a little pointed, like, oh, if you have this much money, why don't you blah, blah, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they asked that. And I'm thinking like, what do you don't know anything, you know?
Yeah.
But people try to, yeah.
There was
or you hear a story, sorry, but you hear a story where it's like, oh yeah, Chuck's a dick. You know, or you hear about famous people all the time. Yeah, that's a great album, but they were a real asshole or whatever. But it's like based on one story that you heard through a person who heard through a person. Like, come on, you don't know them.
Yes,
it's just crazy to me.
And I'm here to tell you that he I'm not making any money on this. I'm not a shill.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
and Sweetwater itself, the company itself, is. I mean, it's pretty complicated. My relationship with them too. I'm not a big capitalist, so that place is just a gigantic monument to capitalism. But
are they number one seller of musical instruments?
Some of them, yeah. I mean, I think it's Gibson. One of those. You should probably edit this out, but one of those guitar companies during COVID was ready to go down under, like famous guitar company.
Yeah,
I want to say it was Gibson. And it was Sweetwater that bailed them out just by the sheer numbers that they were selling. Single-handedly, they did that.
That's awesome.
I want to say certain kinds of keyboards, maybe Yamaha or Rollin.
I think it was
there's
Gibson.
Nobody who sells as many worldwide as they do.
That's nuts.
And when I was here in the 80s, there's a guy named Tom Peters who wrote a book called something about management. Strive for Excellence, I think it was. And the guy I worked for, Barry LeBeouf, another dear guy, and Chuck, both were deep into that Tom Peters stuff. And it's all about customer service. It's all about, the customer is always right. Even when you think they're wrong, it is better to err on the side of them being right, because then they'll keep coming back. But if you treat them like shit, then they'll never come back, and now you lost money.
And they're going to tell everyone they know.
They tell, it's like for everyone like that, they tell 6 other people. Peters tells a story about Nordstrom's, where Nordstrom takes back everything, and there's a picture of some guy taking a used tire back at Nordstrom, which didn't really happen. It was staged. But the guy at Nordstrom said they did studies, and about 10% of the population will take advantage of these sort of liberal rules. 90% won't. So why would you put, all that trust or the belief that 10% are going to screw you over when 90% are not like that? I've worked in a liquor company too, and a guy brought in a bottle of whiskey, and the neck, he hadn't even opened it, but the neck was cracked. It was a $100 bottle of whiskey. Uskebach is what it was. It was delicious. But the owner of the liquor store wouldn't give the guy his money back because he felt like he was trying to put one over on him. I was like, that guy's going to walk out of here and never spend money here again.
Right.
So you just not only didn't give him his $100 back, but thousands of dollars later, he's going to McDougal across the way.
Yeah.
So Chuck is all about that. And on inside the store it says do what is right or something like that, or there's some little slogan. Chuck is that, and he believes that very strongly. And for whatever it's worth, whatever his motives are, whether it's to get customers to come back and spend more money, but
they do. I think that's really fair. Like if you have a return policy, yeah, people will take advantage of it. But you know how happy people are if they get a gift or something and they can just take it back and there's not a big dilemma.
Yeah,
you give them the receipt or whatever, and then that's it. And the company takes care of it, and then they're already in your store at that point with the money that they just got back.
Yes, yeah,
and they're happy. And they're like, okay, this company, so they're going to come back and buy stuff because they're like, well, if I don't like it, they're more likely to pull the trigger on something big because they know they can return it.
And
so.
I can't believe that I'm agreeing with you on this because it's so capitalistic. And,
yeah. I mean,
well, it
making money is great. I mean, if you have the money, but if you don't, then it's a flawed system, and
it just needs to be regulated more.
Yeah.
And that really is kind of the thing. And there's a book that I need to read that Bernie came out with called Why It's Okay to Be Angry with Capitalism. Because sure, I think there are certain things that capitalism does to us that creates a hunger that we don't have and we don't really need, that we seek to fill by buying more shit. And I think by regulating things like that, or healthcare, all that kind of stuff. Although healthcare, those are nonprofits, but they're just assholes.
Yeah,
plus, we're not getting paid enough to pay for the healthcare that we can't get.
Or pharmaceuticals trying to just profit off of
oh my god, yeah,
your mental illness, basically.
Fucking evil.
But yeah, I mean, there's definitely bad things, but no, that's awesome that Chuck's always like I've had very little interaction. I think I've been in line with him once, maybe, like, you know what I mean, or I've seen him on the stage at Reinhardt the one time in the performance class I was talking about, and yeah, he seems very like I don't have any problems with him, but there's a lot of haters out there.
There are. He bought a helicopter to add to his fleet, right?
That's awesome.
Well,
he should have. I mean, why not? I would want one. But if you put yourself in his shoes, get a helicopter. Yeah,
bingo. That's the thing. So he bought this thing, and it made the news. It was like a news thing. Like, do we care? Why do we care that? So anyway,
that's a whole nother thing. Don't even get me started on.
So whoever it was, like one of the TV stations, they put it on their Facebook, and then there were comments, right? And these comments that are like, well, it was like you guys, you truly, because because Chuck was the one that pointed this all out to us.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he was reading some of these comments. It was like, I wasn't even there. Like he treated the construction people badly at some point in whatever they were building.
Right. Like he's on site, like with a hard hat on, just yelling at him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
And it's just, they just make this shit up and then they pile on. It's like Reddit. It's just one gigantic. Because
people love that.
Wank.
Oh, this person knows that. Yeah. I always thought Chuck, they have something a bone to pick with them. So then they jump on the bandwagon of, see, this is what I'm talking about right here. This guy knows what I'm talking about. And then, that's how the internet is. It's crazy out there.
Yeah. And it's usually because they're people who just wish like heck they could be like Chuck. And, so it's like we're all wannabe millionaires, right?
Yeah. And once they had the $1 million, they would act totally differently.
They
would be perfect.
And they would.
Yeah.
And then they'd be all like, well, everybody hates me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about the
asshole.
amount of money that Chuck's given to charity versus the guy complaining about him. The stuff he's done for just this community with his, sure, he spends money on a helicopter, but how many millions went into like just the city of Fort Wayne?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you didn't put even hundreds into the city of Fort Wayne, but you're going to complain about a guy. I don't know. It is crazy. You can't even imagine what that's like to have that kind of money and power.
Well, I think that's an important point that you can't even imagine because, the Philharmonic here had a hard time because of the money situation.
Oh yeah. They were on strike, and did they just come back?
They worked out a deal.
Nice.
And Chuck is on the board, and I think he's chairman of the board. And so everybody was looking at Chuck like, what the fuck, man? Give him money.
This is your fault.
And the thing is that, again, you can't imagine what it must be like. I mean, is that what we expect of everybody who's got a bunch of money, that they just throw money at everything?
Yeah.
Because then when do you stop doing that?
Yeah.
The idea is that the Philharmonic and the front office needed to work this bullshit out amongst themselves, because throwing money at it would just kick the can down the road a little bit. So Chuck would do no good except buy maybe another season, only to have it come up again. So it had to play out the way it did. And for him to show restraint is to show that he showed restraint. That just because he's got the money doesn't mean he's just going to fork it out and only feed the fire for some later date. In which case, if he gave a bunch of money to the symphony, to the Philharmonic, then they would essentially do it again, the next season, and they all look at Chuck. It's like, yeah, can we have more money now?
For handouts, yeah.
So it is,
and I do think, I mean, musicians like that. You're in a Philharmonic orchestra, like you should be able to earn a living wage doing that. I mean, that's pretty much a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to, the amount of practice to stay up and to be able to like charge that much money for tickets at the embassy here in town, it's like the theater is making a lot of money off every year at Christmas, the Christmas thing they do.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. And it's a lot of money that needs to go back to them. I know there's a lot of people in an orchestra that you have to pay. So, I mean, there's that, but.
Well, there is that, but at the same time, it's everybody in the symphony or in the Philharmonic here, everybody in any kind of symphony all over the country knows that you're not going to get rich doing it.
Sure, but they were just asking for like something fair.
Well, they were.
Yeah.
They were. And, it was only exacerbated by the fact that the front office gave themselves a raise during COVID and furloughed all the musicians.
Yeah, they're not working at all.
It's got bad optics at the very least. Yeah. I don't know why we started talking about Chuck, but he's a sweet guy.
I brought up that we were at Sweetwater. And
he's just a very sweet guy. And I just want everybody who would listen to this to understand that I have no investment in this at all. I play in the band. We talk, but usually when we hang out, I'm hanging out with other guys in the band. So it's not like we sit around and chat about this stuff. He's just a really great guy.
That's awesome. And I think more people should realize that. And also, like, you're not even you're from Tennessee.
Lived there for 30 years. I don't say I'm from there because I hate Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah.
I hate it.
I do. I never felt home there. I love the people there and my friends.
I like it, like when I visit there. So it's
a nice place to visit.
I lived in Memphis from the time I was about 2 years old until 5 when we moved to Plymouth, Indiana. So I was born in Ohio, and then my dad moved down there for a little while. finishing up some school.
It gets warm there in Memphis.
And yeah, I don't think it snowed at all when we were there.
Yeah.
And if it does snow, like I remember being down there in the winter one time when it snowed like half an inch.
Yeah.
They just shut
Yeah.
literally everything.
Oh
they were
gosh.
like, we're done.
Yeah.
And they don't have the snow. They don't have the infrastructure to deal with snow, and people don't drive in it. So like people were driving like it was like everyone around here drives terribly compared to other places I've been. I swear. Like,
yeah, there's a specific kind of crazy here.
It really is. But yeah, I was just gonna say, so you were from Tennessee. You're not like invested, like it's not like you've known Chuck forever or something.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean, I knew him again when he was just Chuck back in the 80s, and he was selling Kurzweil. I think I might have bought a Kurzweil from him. And we bumped into each other a lot, but he has not changed at all. He's just the same kind of, he's like a tech geek is what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he just happened to come upon a certain thing, and he happened to make the right choices all across the board. And that's a good example of some guy that I'm sure back in the 80s, he did not dream of this.
Oh, sure.
He did not think one day I'm going to build a very, very, very large music store.
I did this all to own a helicopter.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was his goal.
Well, man,
On a helicopter.
I hate to cut it off, but I think it's 12:15.
We'll do part 2.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, I'll definitely do this again. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day /evening/morning, and we love you.